Alien Girl was used as a living battery, until a human hero made the aliens regret it. The stench of alien spices and industrial waste hung heavy in the air of Nexusport, a lawless trading hub where morality came with a price tag. Commander David Nixon adjusted his combat suits, thigh holsters feeling the reassuring weight of his plasma pistol against his leg. The flexible dark material hugged his muscular frame as he navigated the crowded marketplace, drawing occasional glances from the various species that called this cesspool home. 2,000 credits. For the neural disruptors, not a credit less. David told the forearm Vexian dealer, his voice firm but casual, and I want clean serial numbers this time. The alien's translucent skin flushed purple with irritation, humans always demanding the impossible 1,800, and I throw in a crate of stim packs. Deal. David transferred the credits, pocketed the transaction ship, and continued his journey through the labyrinthine streets of the alien district. And he hadn't come to Nexusport for sightseeing. The Galactic Security Force had intel on a weapon shipment moving through here next cycle, but his contact was running late with time to kill. David decided to explore the less reputable sectors of the port, places where GSF agents rarely ventured. Without backup, the buildings grew more dilapidated as he moved deeper into the alien quarter. Makeshift power lines crisscrossed overhead, humming with stolen electricity. Street vendors hawked questionable merchandise, while hollow-eyed addicts shuffled past, lost in chemical daydreams. David turned down an alley, that riot of rotting food and something distinctly alien. That's when he saw it, a crude encampment surrounded by portable shield generators. A group of Dreth reptilian thugs known for their brutality huddled around what appeared to be a metal capsule connected to various machines. Inside the transparent section of the capsule was a female figure. Holy shit, David muttered, ducking behind a waste container for a better look. The captive was humanoid, but clearly alien, her skin a vibrant sapphire blue that seemed to pulse with inner light. Silver hair cascaded down her shoulders, contrasting with the tattered beige mini dress that barely preserved her modesty. Electrodes attached to her bare arms and legs fed into power converters, a living battery. The realization hit David like a punch to the gut. The Dreth were laughing, one of them adjusting controls that made the girl arch in pain, her large luminous eyes a deeper blue than her skin widened in agony. Those eyes found David, and the pleading look in them made his blood boil. He'd seen plenty of atrocities during his 10 years with the GSF, but this was beyond barbaric. The girl's energy was being harvested to power their camp, slowly draining her life force. David retreated, his mind racing. Direct confrontation would be suicide. He counted at least 6 heavily armed Wrath. He needed a plan, weapons, and the element of surprise. Hang on, huh? He whispered, though she couldn't possibly hear him. I'm coming back for you. 3 hours later, David returned to the alley the sun had set, leaving Nexusport bathed in the artificial glow of countless lights. He'd spent the time gathering intelligence, acquiring additional weapons, and memorizing the layout of the Dree camp. His combat suit now carried a full complement of weaponry, stun grenades on his left thigh, a vibro knife on his right, and a compact assault rifle slung across his back. The neural disruptors he'd purchased earlier would prove particularly effective against the Drees nervous systems. David waited until the camp grew quiet. Most of the thugs passed out from whatever intoxicants they'd been consuming. Only 2 remained alert, guarding their precious power source. He activated his tactical visor, highlighting the heat signatures of the Drath in the cooler blue form of the captive girl. With practiced precision, he tossed a neural disruptor into the camp. It detonated with a soft pulse, dropping the conscious guards, instantly moving swiftly. David vaulted over the makeshift barrier and approached the capsule up close. The girl looked even worse. Her luminous skin had faded to a dull blue, and her breathing was shallow. Don't worry, you're safe now, he said, carefully deactivating the power siphons before releasing the capsule's locks. The girl collapsed into his arms. Surprisingly light despite her height, her skin tingled against his residual energy. He guessed. Those large eyes fluttered open, focusing on his face with difficulty. Human, she whispered, her voice melodic despite her weakened state. Yeah, name's David. Let's get you out of here before these bastards wake up. He lifted her effortlessly, but as he turned to leave, a groggy voice called out in the harsh breath language. One of the thugs was regaining consciousness. Reaching for a weapon, David drew his plasma pistol and fired in one fluid motion. The Dree's head exploded in a spray of green, but the noise had roused the others. Shit, David muttered, breaking into a run with the girl clutched against his chest. So much for the stealthy approach. Plasma bolts sizzled past his head. As the enraged Wraith gave chase, David ducked behind a stack of cargo containers, setting the girl down gently. Stay here, he ordered, unslinging his assault rifle. I'll handle this. Her slender fingers caught his wrist. They work for Dominar Krell. She managed, her voice barely audible. Important Mana mission. David frowned. Krell was a name that appeared in multiple GSF intelligence reports, a major player in interstellar crime with connections to corrupt officials throughout the sector. All the more reason to ruin his day, David replied. With a grim smile, rest, this won't take long. He emerged from cover, rifle raised, ready to teach these aliens what happened when they crossed paths with humanity. The first Dree charged with a guttural roar. Viro blade extended. David sidestepped, firing a 3-round burst that tore through the alien's chest. 2 more emerged from behind the encampment, plasma rifles blazing. Typical, David muttered, diving behind a metal container. They always travel in packs. He rolled to the edge of his cover, squeezed off several precise shots, and was rewarded with a satisfying howl as one of the Dreth collapsed. The remaining thugs scattered, seeking better positions. Come on, you scaly bastards, David taunted, ejecting a spent energy cell and slapping in a fresh one. Show me what you've got. A shadow fell across him. David looked up to see a massive Dree warrior dropping from above, heavy boots aimed at his head. He rolled away just in time, the impact sending vibrations through the ground. This one was different, larger, with ceremonial scarring across his reptilian features and high-grade combat armor. Human, the Dreth commander hissed in accented common. You steal Krell's property, die slowly for this. David fired, but the Dreth's armor absorbed the shots. The alien moved with surprising speed, closing the distance and knocking the rifle from David's hands. They grappled, the Dreth's superior strength pushing David back against the container. Not bad, David grunted, struggling against the alien's grip. But humans have a saying. He head-butted the Dreth, the unexpected move causing the alien to loosen his hold. David followed with a knee to the abdomen and a quick jab to the throat. We fight dirty. The Dreth staggered back, reaching for a sidearm before he could draw. A blinding flash of blue energy engulfed him. The alien's body convulsed, scales blackening as the energy coursed through him. When the light faded, only a charred husk remained. David turned to see the alien girl standing unsteadily, her sapphire skin glowing with pulsing veins of electric blue light. Her eyes had transformed into pools of pure energy. She swayed, then collapsed. He caught her before she hit the ground, feeling an electric tingle where her skin contacted his. The remaining Drath, witnessing their leader fate, fled into the darkness that was unexpected. David said, lifting her once more. Her skin was hot to the touch, almost feverish. Let's get somewhere safe before reinforcements arrived. David carried her through back alleys and service corridors, eventually reaching a small room he'd rented under a false identity. It wasn't much, a bed, basic facilities, and a security system he'd personally upgraded, but it would do for now. He laid her gently on the bed. Her glow had dimmed, but occasional pulses of energy still rippled beneath her skin. Up close, her features were even more striking: high cheekbones, full lips, and those extraordinary eyes now closed. In exhaustion, David retrieved a medical scanner from his pack and ran it over her body. The readings were unlike anything he'd seen before. Her cellular structure seemed to be generating and storing massive amounts of energy. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on him. With effort. You saved me. You returned the favor, David replied, setting aside the scanner. That was quite a light show back there. A weak smile touched her lips. Lumidians, we channel energy. They drain me for days. She struggled to sit up. I am Lena, take it easy, Lena. David helped her into a sitting position, acutely aware of her proximity. Despite her weakened state, there was something undeniably alluring about her, perhaps the way her silver hair framed her face, or how her torn dress revealed glimpses of blue skin that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Water?" she asked, her melodic voice barely above a whisper David brought her. A container supporting her head, as she drank, her lips were cool against the rim. Contrasting with the warmth radiating from her body, David said, "The Dreth said you belonged to someone named Krellel. What did they want with you?" Lena's expression darkened. "My people rare now. Hunted for our abilities." She placed a hand on his, sending a pleasant current through his arm. "Krill discovered our energy can power forbidden technology weapons, and that's why they were draining you for weapons research." She nodded, her silver hair cascading forward. My ship attacked. I was taken." Her fingers tightened around his. "Others of my kind also captured." David felt a surge of protective anger. "How many?" "5 that I know of." Lena's eyes met his, their depths swirling with emotion and residual energy. "You are different from other species I have encountered. Most fear us or wish to use us. Humans have a bad habit of helping the underdog." David said with a half smile. "It's gotten our species in trouble more than once." Lena tilted her head, studying him with fascination. "Your kind is remarkable. I sensed it even in my captivity. Your life force burns brighter, more intensely than others." Her hand moved to his face, tracing the line of his jaw. The touch sent a pleasant warmth through him, different from the energy discharge earlier, more intimate. "Deliberate. I need to recover my strength," she said, her voice gaining a husky quality. "Lumidians can absorb energy from compatible sources." "Compatible sources?" David raised an eyebrow. Lena's luminous skin brightened slightly as something like a blush spread across her cheeks. "Life, energy, passion, it sustains us. My people consider it a sacred exchange." The implication hung in the air between them, charging the atmosphere with unspoken possibility. "That's not a request I get every day." David said, his voice rougher than intended. Lena's eyes held his, vulnerability and determination mingling in their depths. "I would not ask, but I am weakened." And her fingers traced a path down his neck, leaving goosebumps in their wake. "I find your form pleasing." David felt his pulse quicken. This was unexpected territory, even for someone who'd spent years navigating the complexities of interspecies diplomacy. Yet he couldn't deny the attraction that had been building since he first saw her. "Well, he said with a roguish smile. "I've never been one to refuse a lady in distress." Dawn broke over Nexusport, casting long shadows through the single window of David's hideout. He woke to an unusual sensation, a pleasant warmth against his chest and a soft blue glow illuminating the room. Lena lay curled against him, her sapphire skin radiant with renewed energy, silver hair spilling across his arm. The night's intimacy had been unlike anything David had experienced, where human passion burned hot and fast. Lena's Lumidian nature created something altogether different, a slow-building exchange of energy that connected them on levels beyond the physical. Each touch had sent currents of pleasure through his body, each kiss a spark of something transcendent. Lena stirred, her luminous eyes opening to meet his. "Your life force is extraordinary," she murmured, tracing patterns on his chest that left trails of light, "so vibrant, so resilient." "I'll take that as a compliment," David replied with a lazy smile. "You seem stronger." "Thanks to you." She sat up, the sheet falling away to reveal her glowing form. "Humans are remarkable creatures. Your passion, it carries a potency I've rarely encountered." David propped himself up on one elbow, admiring her, "Happy to be of service, though I have to say your methods of energy transfer are a lot more enjoyable than the standard is a GSF recharging protocols." Lena laughed, a sound like chimes in a gentle breeze. "My people believe intimacy is the purest form of energy exchange. What your kind calls is sex, we see as a sacred communion of life forces." She tilted her head, studying him, "though I must admit the human approach has certain advantages. I hadn't anticipated cultural exchange at its finest." David quipped, sitting up fully. "So what's our next move?" "Krill's not going to be happy about losing his battery." Lena's expression grew serious. "With my strength partially restored, I can access the collective consciousness of my people." She closed her eyes, her skin pulsing with waves of blue light. "We Lumidians share a psychic network, a connection that transcends physical distance." David watched, fascinated, as patterns of light danced beneath her skin, forming intricate constellations that shifted and realigned. "I sensed them," she whispered, Eyes still closed 5 of my kind, as I feared their energy signatures are weak. But present her eyes snapped open, now glowing with intense light, their being. Held in a Dreth compound on the outskirts of the port, a research facility, let me guess, heavily guarded. State-of-the-art security, certain death, for anyone stupid enough to attempt a rescue. David reached for his combat suit. Yes, Lena confirmed, watching him, with a mixture of concern and admiration. Why do? You sound almost pleased about that. David grinned, as he began checking his weapons, because impossible odds are a human specialty. Your people aren't the only ones with special traits. We've got a knack for beating them when everything. Be subtle. David grinned, removing a specialized device from his belt. Good thing subtlety is part of GSF training. As Lena worked to safely drain the prototype's Lumidian energy reserves, David planted the device, a data extractor that would transmit the weapon specifications to GSF headquarters while simultaneously introducing a fatal flaw in its operating system. Done, Lena announced, stepping back from the controls. I've redirected the harvested energy back to my people. It should help stabilize them for transport. David finished his sabotage, and I've ensured that if anyone tries to rebuild this monstrosity, it'll fry itself at the first power-up. Their eyes met across the chamber, a moment of shared triumph that carried echoes of their night together. That same connection, that same perfect understanding, despite the danger surrounding them. David felt an overwhelming urge to take her in his arms. A slow applause interrupted the moment. Impressive teamwork, came a smooth, cultured voice from the doorway. Though ultimately futile, they turned to see a tall, elegant dress and expensive robes, flanked by 4 heavily armed guards. Unlike the thugs they had encountered earlier, these soldiers wore advanced combat armor and carried military-grade weapons. Dominar Krell, I presume, David said subtly, shifting to place himself between the newcomers and Lena. The Dreth crime lord smiled, revealing rows of perfectly maintained teeth. Commander Nixon of the Galactic Security Force, your reputation precedes you. His cold eyes shifted to Lena, as does the unique signature of a Lumidian energy. How fascinating to see it uncontained. David's hand moved toward his weapon. Sorry to disappoint you, but your battery collection is checking out early. Krell's smile didn't waver. Oh, I think not. You see, while you were busy with your heroics, my engineers were completing the backup prototype. He gestured to his guards. Secure them both. The human will make an excellent test subject for our new acquisition. Fascinating specimens. Humans, Krell mused, circling David like a predator, so physically unremarkable, yet possessing an inexplicable resilience. Did you know your species has a unique biological compatibility with Lumidian energy? David kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced behind him. The rescued Lumidians huddled together, still weak from their ordeal. Lena stood protectively before them, her sapphire skin pulsing with defiance. We've been studying this phenomenon for months. Krell continued. Other species exposed to raw Lumidian energy suffer cellular degradation. Humans, however, his reptilian eyes gleamed. You absorb it, channel it, even amplify it. Imagine my delight when my surveillance drones identified a GS agent in my territory, the perfect test subject. Sorry to disappoint you, David replied, subtly activating the emergency beacon concealed in his belt. But I'm not interested in being your lab rat. Krell's lips curled into a cold smile. Your interest is irrelevant. Commander Nixon, the crime lord, nodded to his guards, who raised their weapons in that moment. Several things happened at once. The weakened Lumidians, drawing on their collective consciousness, created a psychic pulse that momentarily disoriented the Dreth. Simultaneously, David launched himself at the nearest guard, while Lena's hands flew to the backup prototype's control panel. David, she called, her voice resonating with unusual harmonics. I need time. On it. He disarmed one guard with a swift strike, using the alien's own weapon to stun another, but the remaining 2 recovered quickly, and Krell himself drew an elegant sidearm. A plasma bolt grazed David's shoulder, searing through his combat suit. He rolled behind a console, returning fire, but found himself pinned down by superior firepower. Your GSF training is impressive, Krell called out, but ultimately futile. You're outnumbered and outgunned. David grimaced, assessing his options. The emergency beacon would bring reinforcements eventually, but they needed an advantage now. As if sensing his thoughts, Lena appeared beside him, moving with impossible speed. I have an idea, she whispered, her eyes glowing intensely, but it requires trust complete. Trust, you've got it, David replied. Without hesitation, Lena placed her hands on either side of his face. Our night together created a bond, a channel. Between us, the I can temporarily extend my abilities to you, but the process is intimate. Despite the dire situation, David couldn't help a roguish smile. Seems like all your solutions involve getting close. A fortunate coincidence, she replied, a matching smile playing at her lips. Then her expression grew serious. This will feel intense. Her forehead pressed against his, and the world exploded into blue light. David gasped as energy coursed through him, not painful but overwhelming, like diving into an ocean of pure sensation. Memories flashed between them, Lena's childhood on a world of perpetual twilight, David's first mission with GSF, their night together now experienced from both perspectives simultaneously. When the connection stabilized, David felt different, lighter, more aware energy course beneath his skin, similar to Lena's natural glow, but tempered by his human physiology. Holy shit, he breathed, looking at his hands now suffused with a subtle blue luminescence. The symbiosis is temporary, Lena explained, her voice echoing slightly in his mind, but powerful. Your human adaptability makes you an exceptional conduit. David flexed his fingers, feeling the energy respond to his will. What can I do with this? Follow your instincts, she replied. Human intuition combined with Ladian energy creates unexpected results. Plasma fire continued to rain around their position. David took a deep breath and stepped out from cover. Raising his hands instinctively, a shield of blue energy formed before him, absorbing the incoming fire. The Dreth guards faltered, clearly unprepared for this development. With a thought, David directed a pulse of energy that sent them flying backward. Krell's composed demeanor finally cracked. Impossible, the integration should take weeks of conditioning. That's the thing about humans, David replied, advancing steadily. As the crime lord retreated, we adapt behind them. The rescued Lumidians had gathered around the backup prototype, drawing on their collective strength. They interfaced with the machine, redirecting its accumulated energy. Krell raised his weapon in desperation, firing directly at David's chest. The bolt struck the energy field surrounding him and rebounded, striking a control panel that erupted in sparks. Your prototype has a new function, Lena announced, joining David. Instead of weaponizing our energy, it now serves as a beacon, broadcasting Krell's crimes to every law enforcement frequency in the sector. The crime lord's face contorted with rage. You primitive. His insult was cut short as the facility's alarms blared. Perimeter breach, announced an automated voice. GSF tactical units detected. David grinned. Looks like my backup arrived. Krell lunged for an emergency exit, but David was faster, with Lumidian energy enhancing his reflexes. He intercepted the crime lord, delivering a blow that sent him crashing into his own prototype. That's for using people as batteries, David growled. As GSF forces secured the facility, David felt the energy within him beginning to fade. The temporary symbiosis was ending, leaving behind a curious emptiness. Lena approached, her own glow dimmed from the effort. Are you all right? Never better, he replied, though his legs suddenly felt unsteady. She caught him as he stumbled, her touch sending pleasant aftershocks through his system. The energy withdrawal can be disorienting, she explained, supporting him especially after such an intense connection. David looked into her luminous eyes, finding himself unable to look away. That was more than just energy transfer, wasn't it? She nodded, a vulnerability in her expression he hadn't seen before. For my people, sharing energy at that level is significant. It creates a bond that transcends the physical, like a marriage. We are each sure, he asked, half joking. More profound, she replied seriously, a joining of essence. It's rarely done outside our species because few can withstand it. Her fingers traced his jawline. You're the first human to experience it and remain conscious. I'm flattered, he said, though flattered hardly covered the complex emotions swirling through him. The connection had left an imprint, a ghost of her thoughts, her feelings, her very self intertwined with his own. GSF agents swarmed the laboratory securing the dreg. Guards in the prototype David's commanding officer Colonel Harker approached with a mixture of exasperation and respect. Nixon, your unorthodox methods continue to astound. The older man said, eyeing Lena, and the other Lumidians, though I can't argue with results. Krellel has been on our most wanted list for years, just doing my job, Sir David replied with a straight face. Harker clearly didn't believe him. We'll need full debriefing from you and your associates, especially regarding this weapon Krellel was developing. As the colonel moved away to coordinate the cleanup, Lena leaned closer to David. Your superior doesn't seem to approve of interspecies cooperation. Harker's old-school GSF thinks humans should stick with humans. David shrugged. He'll come around when he realizes what your people can offer the Federation, and what might that be, she asked, a teasing lilt in her voice. David smiled, feeling the last